The seaside of Thessaloniki city here, in Greece, in Europe. The port city of Thessalonica, now called Salonika, or Thessaloniki, was founded by the Macedonian general Cassander in celebration of the successful campaigns against the Persians. With the triumphs and expansion of their influence, new wealth poured into Macedonia and allowed new settlements to be established. This port was constructed on the Thermaic Gulf and knitted together 26 villages, including a village called Thermi, by Herodotus in his book Polymnia. The description of Xerxes' expedition against Greece as the main seaport and naval base of Macedonia. The original villages were Doric settlements of the period of Macedonian kings. The new city was named after his wife Thessalonike, daughter of Philip II and half-sister of Alexander the Great. As the successor of Alexander the Great, Cassander had considerable resources. He erected a massive wall around the city. The position of the city only improved with the completion of the Egnatian Way, which made the port easily accessible to other Macedonian cities. The Via Egnatia ran through the city and can still be seen today. Strabo the geographer in Geographic Elements referred to the port as the metropolis of Macedonia. The Celts attacked the city and smashed many of the defenses and walls during the battle in which Ptolemaeus, the Thunderbolt, was killed, but were turned back by the defenders of the town. Even the Romans were repelled in their early advances, but the city was surrendered after Perseus, king of Macedonia, was defeated at Pydna under the Roman Empire. Thessalonica became the capital city of the Roman province of Macedonia. The city was referred to as the Mother of Macedonia in Roman writings. The orator Cicero stayed here and delivered oratory. With the rise of the Roman civil war, Thessalonica backed Antony and Octavian, who stayed in Thessalonica after their victory. Later, the Gate of Axis Arch was erected to commemorate victory at the Battle of Philippi. Octavian declared Thessalonica a free city under Politarch's magistrates. Thessalonica was a wealthy city and had a Roman, Greek, and Jewish population. Thessalonica enjoyed liberty as a free city with a large population. St. Paul used the city as a gateway to reach the region. Recent excavations uncovered mile markers that say Thessalonica was the halfway point in the travel along the Via Egnatia. They said there was a distance of 260 Roman miles in either direction to endpoints. St. Paul came to Thessalonica from Philippi. He went to the synagogue for 3 Sabbath days, Acts 17 1-9. In Thessalonica, some proselyte Greeks and the chief women believed St. Paul's preaching. The Jews who did not believe caused uproar in the city and assaulted the house of Jason. In order to bring out St. Paul and Silas, the people took Jason, St. Paul's host, and other believers to the rulers, accusing Jason of harboring traitors to Caesar. Jason and the other brethren were given a bond on the agreement that St. Paul would leave the area. St. Paul and Silas were sent away immediately by night to Berea. The decree of Claudius that expelled Jews from Rome was probably broadcast to the people along the Via Egnatia at about the time of St. Paul's visit. The politarchs of the city were no doubt forced to act against St. Paul. The preaching of the gospel in Thessalonica was very important and facilitated the spreading of the faith to all of Macedonia. 1 Thessalonians 1-8. From St. Paul's letters to the Thessalonians, it was evident that their faith was known throughout the region. They were a group of believers St. Paul remembered with great love and commendation in his letters. Aristarchus and Secundus of Thessalonica believers labored with St. Paul. Acts 20-4, 27-2. After his departure, St. Paul sent Timothy to Thessalonica. The first and second epistles to the Thessalonians were written in Corinth after Timothy offered a good report concerning the welfare of the church. St. Paul may have revisited Thessalonica and mentions his intention to visit in his first letter to Corinthians, 1 Corinthians 16-5. This church suffered persecution, 1 Thessalonians 14. Other important figures of the Thessalonians included Jason, Gaius, Secundus, Aristarchus, and perhaps Demas. Acts 19:29, 20-4. After Paul started the church in Thessalonica, he wrote this first letter to the believers there within just a few months of leaving. In Acts, Luke recorded that Paul preached for 3 Sabbath days to the Jews in the local synagogue, Acts 17-2. However, most scholars believe Paul spent about 3 months, rather than 3 weeks, with the Thessalonians, because he would have had to have been there long enough to receive more than one offering from the Philippian church. Philippians 4:15-16. Paul's ministry in Thessalonica obviously touched not only Jews, but Gentiles as well. Many Gentiles in the church had come out of idolatry which was not a particular problem among the Jews of that time. 1 Thessalonians 1-9. Paul wrote his first letter to the Thessalonian church from the city of Corinth around AD 51, just a few months after having preached in Thessalonica on his second missionary journey. Upon leaving Thessalonica under duress, Paul, Silas, and Timothy traveled to Athens by way of Berea. But after a short time in Athens, Paul felt the need to receive a report from the newborn church in Thessalonica, so he sent Timothy back to serve and minister to the new believers there. However, Timothy soon returned with a good report, prompting Paul to pen 1 Thessalonians as a letter of encouragement to the new believers. Everyone would like to have some insight into what their future holds. How much more so when it comes to the end of the whole world? 1 Thessalonians provides Christians with the clearest biblical passage on the coming rapture of believers, an event that will inaugurate the 7-year tribulation. At the rapture, Christ will return for his people. The dead in Christ shall rise first, while those still living will follow close behind. All believers will meet Jesus in the air to begin an eternity spent with the Lord. Impressed by the faithfulness of the Thessalonians in the face of persecution, Paul wrote to encourage the Christians in that community with the goal that they would continue to grow in godliness. Paul knew that the people had been exposed to errant teaching from those in opposition to the way of Jesus Christ and the grace of God, and Paul also understood that, unless the young church continued to mature in its faith, the danger would only increase over time. With that in mind, Paul taught the people that any spiritual growth would ultimately be motivated by their hope in the ultimate return of Jesus Christ. Paul was never interested in simply telling people to pull themselves up by their bootstraps, for he knew that what